Sometimes the country will eat it, sometimes Walmart will eat it, and sometimes there'll be something to be...
The U.S. economy is plunging into an unforeseen crisis as one of the largest names in retail, Walmart, decides to pull out of the U.S. market. President Trump has urged Walmart to bear the increased tariff costs to keep prices low for consumers. But this seems increasingly impossible under the current circumstances. Walmart has announced the closure of 269 stores and warned that it may need to raise prices due to the tariff policies, exacerbating the food crisis sweeping the nation. The question remains, how far will the Trump administration's tariff policies push Walmart and other retailers to the brink of crisis? Will consumers face a severe food crisis when major retailers can no longer maintain stable prices? Do you think the tariff policies will negatively impact the economy? Comment 1 if you agree, and comment 0 if you disagree. Don't forget to like, share, and sub to support the channel and stay updated on the next interesting videos. Let's stay tuned to this video to understand the unfolding tariff crisis and its impact on the U.S. economy. President Trump's tariff policy not only impacted international relations between countries, but also had a direct effect on the U.S. economy, especially on the lives of American families. In an unprecedented move, President Trump demanded that large corporations, including Walmart, take responsibility for bearing the costs of the increased tariffs to avoid affecting product prices and market stability. Specifically, Trump asked Walmart, the world's largest retailer, to maintain reasonable prices for consumers, despite the rising production costs due to the tariff policies. As one of the largest retailers in the U.S., Walmart responded quickly to these demands. While many companies sought to resist tariffs or raise prices to offset the costs, Walmart decided it could no longer uphold its commitment to low prices indefinitely. The company announced the closure of 269 stores nationwide, a pivotal decision in its business strategy. This move reflected not only the pressures of tariff policies, but also a significant shift in how large corporations operate in an unstable economy. By closing a large number of stores, Walmart issued a serious warning about the potential rise in prices. This would not only affect American consumers, but also trigger a ripple effect in international markets. American families would face higher prices for essential goods, from food to daily consumer products. The surge in prices would place significant strain on many household budgets, driving some people into more difficult financial situations as they could no longer maintain a stable standard of living. With Walmart's decision, American consumers would witness almost immediate price hikes. One of the most significant impacts on Americans was the sharp increase in prices, raising financial pressure on families. Not only at Walmart stores, but across the entire market, the prices of consumer goods began to soar, especially food, household items, and essential products. This severely impacted the living standards of Americans, particularly those with lower incomes. This instability was not confined to the U.S., but began to spread to international markets as well. Other countries, particularly major trading partners of the U.S. like China, Canada, and European Union nations, began to feel the disruption in global supply chains. Walmart's store closures and price hike warnings would increase economic instability in these countries, especially as they faced changes in supply chains and product pricing. Furthermore, the impacts of this decision created waves of reaction in international financial markets. Investors and global companies began to shift their strategies to cope with the increasing instability. The stock market experienced a sharp decline as investors grew concerned about the potential for price hikes and reduced consumer purchasing power. This not only affected retailers, but also forced other industries to adjust their business plans. This change serves as an important lesson for businesses in managing costs and maintaining profitability in an unpredictable economy. Despite being a large corporation, Walmart could not avoid the negative effects of government tariff policies. The key lesson here is that companies must be prepared for unforeseen changes in political policies, particularly those that directly affect production costs and product prices. Meanwhile, consumers must learn to cope with these changes. Forecasting price increases will help families plan their spending appropriately, avoiding financial strain. Moreover, this lesson emphasizes the importance of flexibility and adaptability in today's economic environment. Businesses must not only compete within their industries, but also accept and adapt to significant changes resulting from government policies. Business leaders must have clear strategies and the ability to respond swiftly when major changes occur. From the consumer's perspective, the rise in prices and the instability in supply chains serve as a reminder of the importance of managing personal finances and maintaining healthy spending habits. Changes in prices in the market can impact daily life, and being prepared for these changes can help individuals overcome future challenges. Walmart's decision to close 269 stores nationwide and shift part of its supply chain outside of the U.S. marked a pivotal moment in the company's operations. The ongoing tariffs and U.S. government economic policies have made it impossible for Walmart to maintain its low-price strategy amidst heavy external pressures. This policy shift not only impacted the value of goods in the U.S., but also sparked a global wave of reactions, driving up prices for essential goods and creating confusion among consumers. To cope with the increasing tariffs and rising production costs, Walmart decided to overhaul its supply chain strategy. Specifically, the company moved some of its production out of the U.S., seeking alternative sources in countries such as Mexico, India, and Southeast Asia. This shift was intended to reduce production costs and find markets with lower tariffs, helping Walmart mitigate the impact of the U.S. government's tariff policies. However, relocating the supply chain outside the U.S. is not a simple solution. Walmart faces significant challenges in maintaining its hallmark low prices. New sources of supply are not only more expensive, but it also takes time to establish stable and reliable supply relationships and ensure quality. This puts Walmart in a tough spot. How can they reduce costs while maintaining their commitment to low prices for consumers? One immediate consequence of the supply chain shift is the sharp rise in prices for essential goods. Items like meat, lettuce, cereals, and processed foods have seen a dramatic increase in price. These are staples in American households, and the soaring costs have left consumers feeling anxious and uncertain. Not only food prices, but consumer goods like household items, clothing, and electronics have also seen price hikes. This is something that many consumers didn't anticipate, and it quickly became clear that many communities were struggling to maintain their standard of living. Lower and middle-income families are the hardest hit, as they face rising costs with stagnant incomes. The rising prices have sparked a strong wave of reaction from consumers. Many are beginning to worry about their future spending power, especially when they see even essential items becoming more expensive. Supermarkets and retail stores have started to notice changes in consumer behavior, with more people opting to buy less or switch to cheaper alternatives. The sense of uncertainty became more apparent as families became unsure about their future in a market that is increasingly volatile. Sales discounts or promotions, which Walmart and other stores regularly offered, no longer seemed as appealing as before. Consumers are now more cautious when making decisions about essential purchases. The shift in Walmart's supply chain and that of other large companies has not only affected U.S. consumers, but has also triggered a global reaction. In Asia, countries like China and India have faced shortages and rising prices. Walmart's decision to move part of its supply chain out of the U.S. has reduced the amount of goods exported from the U.S., impacting countries that import from the U.S. market. In Europe, countries like Germany, the UK, and France have also seen prices rise, particularly in food and consumer goods. This change has led to a consumer crisis in many countries, with people struggling to maintain stable living standards. Even in African countries, where many people depend on imports from the US and other developed nations, prices have risen sharply. The shortage of goods and rising prices have made life more difficult for people and created a host of economic and social problems. In response to rising prices and supply chain instability, Walmart has not only pulled out of several large US markets, but has also started adjusting its strategy in other regions of the world. Some of Walmart's stores in Asian and European countries have had to close because they could not compete with local retailers or could not maintain profitability in the challenging market conditions. This is not just a problem for Walmart, but a trend across the entire retail industry. Many other major companies are also changing their supply chain strategies to cope with the uncertainty of external factors, particularly the escalation of tariff policies and global market fluctuations. In Q2 2025, Walmart faced a severe financial crisis, forcing the company to shut down 10 major distribution centers, directly impacting 50,000 employees. This marked a clear indication that external factors, such as tariffs and supply chain disruptions, were beginning to take a heavy toll on retail giants. This situation not only affected Walmart, but also triggered a ripple effect across the retail industry and related sectors. In Q2 2025, Walmart announced a massive loss, estimated at $25 billion. This was not only due to the impact of tariff policies, but also due to supply chain disruptions and changes in the company's operational strategy. Walmart had to close 10 major distribution centers across the country, leading to severe cuts in workforce numbers. Around 50,000 employees were directly affected by these decisions. And not only they, but thousands of Walmart's suppliers and partners also faced unprecedented difficulties. The closure of distribution centers caused a severe shortage of goods, making it impossible for Walmart to maintain operations as before, resulting in disruptions in the supply of essential items to consumers. The change in the supply chain and the shift of production outside the U.S. did not immediately resolve the issues in Walmart's distribution system. This put Walmart in a difficult position, as they had to deal with rising prices and shortages of important products. Walmart's financial losses not only raised concerns for consumers, but also sent shockwaves through financial markets, particularly Wall Street. Immediately after the company announced its poor financial results, Walmart's stock price plummeted, causing investors and financial institutions to worry about the company's ability to recover. The stock market saw a sharp downturn as investors rushed to sell off retail stocks. This wave of panic did not only affect Walmart, but also spread to other retail companies and related industries, creating widespread instability. Investors began to worry about the ability of major companies to maintain stable supply chains amid tariff barriers and the economic crisis. The market's reaction to Walmart's financial situation amplified concerns about the future of the retail industry and its impact on the U.S. economy. Not only was the retail industry heavily affected, but other sectors also began to feel the impact of disruptions in Walmart's supply chain. Electronics, clothing, and toy companies, which relied on distributors like Walmart, faced product shortages and disruptions in supply contracts. These companies struggled to maintain production and timely deliveries, forcing them to adjust their manufacturing and distribution strategies. Furthermore, the rising cost of shipping and supply chain issues also increased the production costs for these companies. Electronics, fashion, and toy companies, already struggling with rising raw material and shipping costs, now faced shortages of supply and disruptions in contracts with partners. This created a huge economic burden for companies as they had to maintain product quality while coping with rising production and operational costs. Do you agree with the challenges that Walmart and other retailers are facing? Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a 1 if you agree and 0 if you disagree with the story above. Please like, share this video, and leave a sub to support us. Now let's follow the next developments together. The U.S. tariff policies, particularly the executive orders of President Trump, not only impacted the retail industry, but also created profound and widespread effects globally. Countries and industries beyond retail had to face unprecedented challenges. The escalation of the trade war led to severe disruptions in global supply chains, causing upheaval in production, trade, and triggering negative consequences for the global economy. This situation has raised alarms about the potential collapse of the U.S. retail industry without timely interventions. President Trump's executive orders marked the beginning of a chain of events that caused a powerful impact on the global economy. High tariffs were imposed on many major countries, including China, South Korea, and others, aimed at reducing the trade deficit and encouraging domestic production. Particularly, the tariffs on goods from China and South Korea raised the costs of imported products into the U.S., causing great difficulty for retailers like Walmart in maintaining low prices for consumers. This was a calculated move by the U.S. government to pressure major trade partners, but it resulted in severe consequences for industries reliant on supplies from these countries. Walmart's suppliers, primarily from China and East Asian countries, faced negative impacts, reducing their ability to supply goods and causing disruptions in the supply chain. Countries affected by the U.S. tariff policies, especially China and South Korea, did not remain passive. They immediately responded by imposing retaliatory tariffs on goods exported from the U.S. For example, China imposed tariffs on many agricultural and industrial products from the U.S., while South Korea adjusted its trade policies to protect its own economy. Large suppliers of Walmart in the affected countries also faced numerous difficulties. The high tariffs caused production and shipping costs to skyrocket, which reduced the competitiveness of products exported to the U.S. Some suppliers had to cut production or even cease exports due to the inability to withstand the high costs and the instability caused by the tariff policies. The rise in tariffs not only increased the cost of goods, but also caused severe disruptions in production and export activities. Walmart's major suppliers, especially those based in China and Southeast Asia, began to struggle with maintaining stable supply chains. The imposition of tariffs pushed these suppliers into a difficult situation, as they could no longer maintain reasonable prices and product quality as they had in the past. These disruptions did not only affect Walmart but also impacted the entire global supply chain. Factories in China and affected countries faced production slowdowns as production costs increased and export contracts were suspended. This reduced the amount of goods exported to the U.S., leading to shortages and price increases in U.S. supermarkets. In addition to the impacts on production and exports, U.S. ports and warehouses became bottlenecks. Shipments from China and other countries were delayed due to stricter inspection measures and prolonged customs procedures. This caused congestion at major ports like Los Angeles and Long Beach, delaying the distribution and supply of goods to retail stores like Walmart. When goods could not arrive on time and warehouses became overwhelmed, the distribution systems of Walmart and other retail companies were severely disrupted. This bottleneck not only created supply chain issues but also forced companies to change their inventory and delivery strategies, increasing operating costs. This situation highlighted clear signs of a potential collapse of the U.S. retail industry if timely intervention was not made. Retail giants like Walmart, already heavily affected by tariffs and supply chain disruptions, were facing a grim future if this situation continued. Retail companies would no longer be able to maintain low prices if supply chains were not improved, and consumers would not be able to continue shopping if prices soared and shortages of goods persisted. The U.S. retail industry, which had already seen significant changes in recent years, could fall into crisis if tariff policies were not adjusted. The fact that large retail companies like Walmart had to close stores and scale back operations was only the initial sign of an economic storm that could severely affect the entire U.S. economy. The U.S. retail industry is facing an unprecedented challenge. With economic instability and disruptions in the supply chain, the foundation of the retail sector has been shattered. Walmart, one of the giants in the industry, is preparing to confront an uncertain future. Recent strategic decisions, combined with the difficulties stemming from tariff policies and changes in consumer behavior, are raising questions about the retail sector's ability to recover and grow. This situation is not only affecting Walmart, but is also spreading to small businesses, having a severe impact on the U.S. economy. In an unprecedented move, internal documents from Walmart were leaked, confirming that the company is planning to close several important distribution centers. The U.S. retail industry is facing unprecedented challenges that cannot be overlooked. Amid economic instability and supply chain disruptions, the foundation of the retail sector has been shattered. Walmart, one of the giants of the industry, is preparing to confront an uncertain future. Recent strategic decisions, combined with the difficulties stemming from tariff policies and changes in consumer behavior, are raising questions about the retail sector's ability to recover and grow. This situation is not only affecting Walmart, but is also spreading to small businesses, having a severe impact on the U.S. economy. In an unprecedented move, internal documents from Walmart were leaked, confirming that the company is planning to close several important distribution centers. This move is part of a strategy to cut costs and adjust the supply chain to cope with disruptions and rising costs. The closure of distribution centers not only affects Walmart's operations, but also directly impacts 50,000 workers, forcing them to face the prospect of job loss. The departure of thousands of workers will have severe consequences for local communities, as these areas lose a significant source of income from employment at the distribution centers. This is not only a blow to employees, but also a sign that the retail industry is facing a crisis. With the scaling down of operations and workforce reductions, Walmart is preparing for an uncertain future. This may lead to the company losing its market dominance and having to adjust its strategy to fit the new circumstances. Small and medium-sized companies are not immune to the impact. The shortage of goods, rising prices, and disruptions in transportation are causing these businesses to struggle to survive. This is not only creating a crisis in the retail industry, but is also increasing instability in the economy at large. The retail sector is now teetering on the edge of decline, and without timely support, its future could become increasingly bleak. The future of the U.S. retail industry is highly unpredictable. The big question is, how long can the industry hold up if current difficulties are not addressed? With Walmart and many other large retailers facing huge losses, maintaining traditional business models in the current context is an enormous challenge. The mass closure of stores, employee layoffs, and the scaling back of operations are just the initial steps of a crisis that could drag on if no intervention is made. The retail industry is struggling with factors like tariffs, rising raw material costs, soaring transportation expenses, and disruptions in global supply chains. These factors are not only diminishing profits for large companies, but also reducing the competitiveness of small businesses. This raises an important question. Can the retail industry recover and continue to operate without strong government support? Or will it continue to face total collapse in the near future? There is no denying that the current supply chain disruptions are a major factor preventing the retail industry from functioning normally. The shortage of raw materials, goods, and logistics services is creating significant difficulties for retailers and related industries. Obstacles in shipping and goods distribution are not only affecting supply speeds, but are also driving up costs and pushing prices higher. These disruptions may continue for the foreseeable future, and without improvements, the U.S. economy will continue to suffer negative impacts from this issue. Economists warn that without timely government intervention, the retail industry will not be able to recover in the short term. In fact, the long-term effects of supply chain disruptions will have widespread consequences, impacting industries from production to consumption and from employment to people's incomes. The current situation of the U.S. retail industry is in a stage of immense hardship and trial. Walmart, along with other retailers, is facing severe challenges that cannot be overcome without government support. The disruption of the supply chain, rising costs, and increasing unemployment are issues that cannot be ignored. Without strong and timely intervention, the U.S. retail industry could not only fall into crisis, but also trigger severe consequences for the nation's economy. The big question now is whether government intervention policies can save the situation and help the retail sector recover. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you found this story interesting and important, don't forget to leave a sub to support the channel and not miss the next exciting videos. Like and share this video to keep everyone updated on the situation of the U.S. retail industry. Thank you so much for always being with us.